Okay. Y'alls. Do you know why y'alls are here? It's because you're not over there. That's why you're here. This is the Solomon Project, where it's not how much you make, it's how much you keep that counts. I'm your host, Richard Burns, and we just left Memphis, Tennessee. Yes, we did.
But
There's some things that I want all my peoples in the hood to understand. All my young folks. It's easy to get distracted when you're in the hood. Very easy. There's a lot going on. A lot going on to distract you. A lot going on to keep you from understanding certain things. But I want to clear at least one or two of those things up. That way, with extra information, maybe, just maybe, you can make perhaps better decisions for yourself. Maybe. See, this is all a chess game. Life is a chess game. You don't have to play the chess game. You can play it as checkers. Simplify things to the point where you're not advancing. You're in a hamster wheel where you can run as hard as you want, as fast as you want, and you get absolutely nowhere. You can do that. God bless America, because you can choose to do that. There are a lot of places on planet Earth where you don't have that choice. Well, little by little, that's changing. Little by little, that's changing. Everything on the surface looks the same. But there are things going on underneath the surface that are causing changes that you will not be able to reverse. It's unfortunate for many, but it's here. It's here. Now, here's one of these things that hopefully you can either understand now by me telling you, or you already understood, or maybe one day you will understand and it might help you. Being a great salesman or a saleswoman or a salesperson, being great at sales does not, by any stretch of the imagination, means that you're great at managing a business. Those two are not the same. I want you to keep that in mind. If you didn't know, if you suspected, and you're hearing this for the first time over here at the Solomon Project, understand that being great in sales does not mean that you are great at managing business. Those are two different skills. Now, whether there are people out there that are good at both skills, they're out there. But I've been hearing people make that connection with all the wrong people. All the wrong people. Again, there are some excellent salespeople out there. They are absolutely horrible at managing a business. That might be the reason why a corporation might have a completely separate department known as the sales department, because their specialty is to sell, not to administrate, but to sell. Another thing I want you to keep in mind: operating a government is not the same as operating a business. Just like being an excellent salesperson is different from being an excellent business manager, operating a business is not the same as operating a country, a government. It is not the same. You cannot operate a government like you operate a business. When you hear people say stuff like that, from now on, you should have warning bells going off in your brain. In your brain. This government has agencies, a variety of agencies that should not be operated, that should not be supervised by a politician. They should not. It should be left up to the professionals in whatever field it is. Now, many businesses have a little something that I'm not sure at what point in time in the development of our nation and of this government when it occurred exactly. But they recognize the fact that in businesses, you got a little something called nepotism. And in nepotism, people get chosen for specific areas of the operation of the business through family and friends. Through family and friends. That's something that creates inefficiencies. It doesn't mean that the business will definitely fail. But it does create obstacles and hurdles within the company that can slow its growth, potentially making it nowhere near as competitive. I worked for a trucking company like that, and the results were terrible for the company. The company shrank to about, I want to say 85%, shrank. It was doing very well, but there was one family member that decided that they were going to do something so egregious that the company wound up losing about 85% of its business. This person was chosen because he was a family member and he thought he could do whatever he wanted. He was never going to get fired. And in one of the decisions that he made, sure enough, the company paid a heavy price. Now, with our government, there are government agencies where the selection process has standards. And those standards are in place to try to avoid those kind of things. Right now, those things are being disrupted right now. Being completely disrupted. Now, for those people who every time some reality gets presented, immediately they want to claim fear-mongering. Those people are just not wanting to accept reality. Because there are things that have already occurred that are part of warnings that were put out that have already occurred, but there are other things within that group of warnings that were given that still have to come to fruition. That's not fear-mongering, because some of the stuff already happened. Okay, you're driving, and while you're driving, something catches your attention on your dashboard. It's the oil light. The oil light comes on. What does that mean? Your car is fear-mongering? Oh, it can't be the oil. So my car is fear-mongering. No, your car is letting you know. It's letting you know what's going on in real time. It's letting you know the reality that perhaps something's going on with your engine. It could be that the oil is low. So what you do, instead of thinking that, oh, my car is fear-mongering, how about doing a quick check the next time you decide to get some gas, because eventually you're going to need gas? How about popping that hood and checking that dipstick? Should you find that the oil level is very low, well, guess what? Your car wasn't fear-mongering. Your car was letting you know that there was something going on that needed your attention. Had you gone into the store at the gas station and purchased more oil, you can address the issue. So, not all warnings fall under the category of fear-mongering. Maybe some people don't have the discernment to be able to distinguish the difference between the two, but for those who can, if you think you can find a remedy, then by all means, It's to your benefit. I want to address something for all the y'alls that have 401ks, retirement accounts. Those are retirement accounts. Those are qualified retirement accounts. Not going to get into the specifics right now. I've mentioned some in previous videos. Don't know which ones they are, but they're there somewhere. Now, with this retirement account, with this qualified retirement account, in some cases you could manage it yourself, and in some cases you can't. You're at the mercy of the brokerage that is handling your retirement account. Either one, doesn't matter which, there's something going on that's impacting your 401k. I mentioned one in a previous video, but I'm going to mention another one right now, because this is related to this ongoing battle with the tariffs. So the tariffs, which is also impacting the value of the US dollar, and also with the reduction of interest rates on some of these bonds, US bonds, the 2-year, the 10-year, the 30-year. The interest on these bonds impact all of us. The interest on these bonds will lay down the absolute bottom of what banks can work with. So when you get a loan, or when you ask for a loan and you're given a loan by the bank, one of the things that they will take into consideration are these rates on these bonds. And then they add percentages to those bonds to offer you the loan. So the difference between the bond rate and the loan that you're getting is how they make their profit. I'm simplifying it now, and this is not financial advice. Now, there's this talk, there's this whole big thing about tariffs, and let me give you the overall picture that the administration is claiming to try to do, okay? Tariffs to try to even the playing field between the trade going on between the United States and other nations. Also, an attempt to lower bond rates and the US dollar to try to be able to sell our goods to other nations. Also to try to attract businesses so that they can either come back to the United States or have foreign companies establish manufacturing plants here in the United States. Okay. So, trying to figure out which one to start with, because I want you guys to be clear on some things. I want you to be clear. Your 401k is impacted by this tariff war, and I'll explain how. There are countries that manufacture goods that come into the United States. And the reason why they sell more than the same goods manufactured here is because of labor costs. Now, if you asked an American citizen to work just as hard at a manufacturing plant as they do in a manufacturing plant, let's say in Sri Lanka or Bangladesh or Cambodia, for the same amount that they get paid, I'm not sure how that American citizen would react. There'd be some eye rolling. There might be a select few that might even get violent. They might really, really feel like the degree that you just disrespected them is so much that they're willing to lay hands on you. The idea of bringing manufacturing back to this country, I don't see how that's possible. I just don't see it. Go check and see how much people are paid to make a pair of Nikes. And then I want you to tell me in the comment section how you're going to make up the difference between what a U.S. citizen will get paid to do that and what somebody in Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia would get paid. How do you entice a business to come back to the United States and find employees to do that job? You're not going to find them. Nobody's going to want to work for those rates. You can't survive on those rates. You can't pay rent. You can't even pay your phone bill with what they get paid out there. Now, the only way I see that you can convince a corporation to come in is if the corporation is completely run by robots and AI. That's the only way. Guess who's pushing for that? Yes, Elon Musk is pushing for that. So can they get a manufacturing plant over here? Maybe. But is it to your benefit? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So if you're one of these people that are going around claiming that these companies need to come to the United States and manufacture, okay, I just need to know, how much are you going to pay people? If you have people, how much are you going to pay them? And if you don't think that's an issue, check and see. I think it's up to 13 states that are getting rid of child labor laws because they want to be able to use children in these warehouses, in these manufacturing plants. Why would they do that? Because they can pay them a lot less than adults. So your problem is not going away. If you're an adult, your problem is not going away. Oh, they got rid of the undocumented immigrants that are stealing jobs for less pay. Well, guess what? All right. No more undocumented immigrants, but guess what we do have? We got children that will work long hours for much less pay. Here's another thing before I leave you guys. This is how the US dollar circulates. And understand, something like 87% of debts throughout the world, debts that are resolved throughout the world are resolved with the US dollar. 87%. How do they get a hold of those dollars? They don't come here to a dollar store and say, hey, I need X amount of dollars. Here's my currency. I'm going to change it to the US dollars. Can I get it? No. The way it happens is those countries that I mentioned, along with a bunch of other countries, they manufacture goods. Merchants here, U.S. merchants here in the United States, buy those goods. Like Walmart, for example, buys those goods so that you can have products on their shelves that you can purchase at a cheaper price. So when when department stores or whatever, or manufacturers that need parts, when they buy those goods from those other nations and they're getting it at a cheap price, much cheaper than what they can get it here, when they buy with dollars. So all those little countries, all those owners of industries in those little countries, they get US dollars. What do you think they do with those US dollars? Here we go. Back to your 401ks that have diversified portfolios where a certain percentage is used, a certain percentage of your money is used to buy stocks, and another percentage is used to buy bonds or whatever other financial products. When the 401k, when the stock market, when the bond market increases in value, guess what? Guess who's participating in that? All those manufacturers in all those other countries are buying U.S. stocks. They're buying U.S. treasuries, increasing the value. These countries, these wealthy people, these governments in these other countries, they want to put their money in a location where they feel is safest, which is U.S. treasuries. Also, they want a little extra risk so that they can make a little extra money with the U.S. dollars that they have. So where do they buy? Where do they put it? In the U.S. stock markets. However, that is also under attack. The United States is losing credibility. The United States now, governments and wealthy people around the world are questioning whether the United States still holds a high standard and is still governed by the rule of law. I'm going to leave it at that. I'm not going to elaborate anymore. Keep all that in mind. Guys, stay fresh. Keep it profitable. All right. Peace.
Arabamda aça, seviyorum çift kalem aça. Göremedi kimseden fayda. İşler